I'm Cecil, Homeboy Holden. Hope you're listening to my music. Hard Fighting Soldier, Systematic, and of course, New Jack Steppin'.
Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm Valerie McConnell, and we are here with Mr. Cecil Homeboy Holden. He's an international recording artist, songwriter, and author.
I started playing music when I was a kid, okay? And I seem like I've been playing music ever since, okay? And just move fast forward a little bit. When I was young, I used to listen to all of the artists back in the day, you know, from Muddy Waters to James Brown to Sam Cooke to Motown and Temptations, to all the groups. I would like, Mama would say, go to bed, and I would take my little transistor radio, put it up under my pillow, and listen to the songs of our artists, you know, while I'm going to sleep. And music, I guess, got into my system. And so I learned that music was important, okay? And when I was very young, I used to stutter a lot. But my family knew that when music came on, I didn't stutter. I could sing and talk perfectly. So music delivered me and gave me some spirit, okay? So fast forward to then, I started singing music. In middle school, I joined the Glee Club. And, you know, back then in the day, you know, especially back in the 60s, or whenever, like, black kids or black boys especially were not into Glee Club stuff. But I went into Glee Club and the only black kid there, but I learned all of the Glee Club songs. And I said, you know what, music is something that I'm going to do. So I started doing music as a kid, you know, and music just stuck in my heart. And then I began to mimic all of the other artists that were out there, you know. Absolutely. And finally, I got a chance to be in talent shows, which my family, my mom and my grandmother and my aunt, Elise, put me in talent shows in Chicago. And I sang at the famous Club de Lisa. Club de Lisa in Chicago back in the day. All of the major artists would come there, like Billy Eckstine and Perry. All these major artists would come to Club de Lisa. Club de Lisa was like the Cotton Club in New York, but in Chicago it was Club de Lisa. And so I went into a talent show, won the talent show, and I said, oh, this is something that I really need to pursue. And my family was said, fine, well, you go ahead and pursue that, but you're going to school.
In Chicago?
In Chicago.
And that's where you grew up?
I grew up in Chicago.
And so we also know about the book that you wrote.
Right.
And with that, I read it, and I was very thrilled to know that, you know, you have a lot of soul, a lot of heart and soul. Like with the background that you've had and where you are now, some of the people that actually inspired you. Who are some of the people that inspired you growing up in Chicago in order to get you to where you are now?
Well, I'm going to go back to my cousins and my family. There was a group of older guys, older than me, called the Foster Brothers. And they were on Mercury Records. And they consisted of about 3 or 4 of my cousins were in the group. And they made this record called Trust in Me, which was recorded by Johnny Mathis, but they covered the song. And living in my block, I had 2 cousins that lived there, and I would go over their house and listen to them practice and so forth. So my cousin Donald Clay and my cousin, we call him Papa Langston, he played the guitar, and he showed me how to play the guitar, the basic way to play the electric guitar. And I picked up that instrument. But yeah, I was inspired by all of the older musicians that were around my cousins and stuff. And finally I got a chance to go and visit Chess Records in Chicago.
Oh.
And that was a thrill of a lifetime.
What was most important to you, your mothers, your fathers, and these are artists, and with that advice to where they are now, what advice would you give to their parents?
I would give to their parents that you should develop not just the talent, but develop the spirit in that person, and also develop the speech, okay? You know, the word says faith comes by hearing, okay? Music comes by hearing. Speaking comes by hearing. So what I would suggest to anybody who's trying to be an artist is learn how to use your diction properly. There are a lot of good singers that have perfect diction. Luther Vandross, for instance. The reason why he sounded so good, Luther has perfect diction. He says everything correctly. Perry Como, a lot of artists use diction, you know, instead of slurring and slipping and sliding and peeping and hiding and all of that, use perfect diction. So I learned to use perfect diction in my speech and in music. And I would say that's the one thing that a young artist need to do is learn perfect diction. Now, you can learn all the other ya languages that you want to and all the slang, but when you learn perfect diction, it's like the whole world can hear you. You know, it's like God can hear you. And so that's where my whole talent is built around being able to speak properly and use perfect diction.
So when you are pursuing a project, are you more interested in the writing, the music, or when you're creating?
Mm-hmm.
How do you create?
You know what? I create from the spirit. When I hear something, it goes into my spirit. And when it goes into my spirit, then I homogenize it there and clean it up, and then I come out with it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, something goes into your spirit and you come right out with it without fine-tuning it. So you need to fine-tune the information that you have, you know, that you receive, or the spirit that you have. It's like if you fall in love, you need to fine-tune that before you start talking about it, before you start singing about it. Fine-tune. A lot of people fall in love, just come out with it just haphazardly, and then you never know where you're going to end up.
Right.
So that's what I say, fine-tune.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so your music, I love the music, Hard Fighting Soldier, New Jack Stepping,
Mm-hmm.
Those are great songs, and they're on the top of the chart.
Correct.
The instruments you play, you know, the harmonica, the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you begin playing the instruments?
You know, well, the instruments came, I have to credit my grandfather with that. My grandfather was Daniel Johnson. He had 21 brothers and sisters from Georgia. But he came up to Chicago, him and his cousins, and they had a group, a band, I guess, because in our basement, they had an old kind of guitar there with 2 or 3 strings on it. It was in the basement, back in the dusty. And I used to play down in the basement. All of a sudden, I looked up and I saw this old guitar. So I grabbed the guitar and just started fooling with it. And my grandfather would tell me, he said, "You know what, boy, put that down. You don't know what you're doing. That's going to mess you up." And so I would wait till he would leave and I would go play with it all the time. And I think, so I have to credit my grandfather for exposing me to the guitar, you know. And then for some reason, I heard stuff on the radio and I heard the guitar playing. Then I'd go downstairs in the basement and try to duplicate that on one string.
Oh, really?
On one
so
string.
So you self-taught yourself.
I self-taught myself, but then when I went to college and school, I took music theory and composition. Now, I did have guitar lessons. I actually studied with a bunch of famous people before. Like I mentioned in my book, I used to practice and play with Curtis Mayfield, Phil Up Church, and Eugene Records from the Chi-Lites. It was me, Eugene Record, and Jerry. We was in a guitar class together, and I met Eugene Record, and he was an amazing writer because he wrote all the Chi-Lites hits.
Up in Chicago, I'm
Up
sure.
in Chicago.
And Gene Chandler.
And Gene Chandler, and then I played with Gene Chandler. But what happened was that there was a instructor on guitar. His name was Zach, and he showed me how to play not just a major chord, but a major seventh chord. And I learned how to play that major seventh chord. And what happened
we're
was,
going to hear some of that
well, no, I'm just going to show you. He showed me how to play like a major seventh chord, and you have to stretch your fingers. So Eugene Record saw that. He said, "Man, how'd you do that?" And so I showed Eugene Record how to play the major seventh chord, and then next thing I know, here come "Old Girl." And have you seen it? Have you seen her? From the major seventh chord. And Eugene was saying, "How did you play that?" And I showed Eugene how to play that, and I was playing a little bit of it. And I said, "No, I don't want no credit." He said, "Oh, that's all right." Next thing I know, he was writing songs with that. And I wrote my own songs too with that, with the major seventh chord. But like I said, the guitar started with my grandfather with that one string on it. And I don't know, I guess I just put 1 and 5 together and got 6 strings. Okay.
I love your music. It's magnificent. It's beautiful, and you know it has rhythm. It has soul. It's a good music.
And it has a spirit to it.
It has a spirit, and you can just listen to it for the first time and really enjoy it. Like
New Jack Stepping.
Yes, New Jack Stepping. And also, I wanted the audience to hear you play the harmonica.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I have a harmonica here, and let me tell you about the harmonica. I went down to Chess Records. I was in high school, and my uncle, my cousin Donald Clay, he said, "Come down to Chess Records and show them your talent." So I went down there and I took my guitar and my harmonica down there, right? So when I get there, the A&R director was, I think, Billy Davis at that time, and he said, "Well, go in the back, I want you to meet a couple of artists." I went back there and I saw Muddy Waters. And there was a guy back
Muddy
there.
Waters.
Yep, the real Muddy Waters.
I remember them.
And I saw this guy named Champ.
Loved him.
And this guy named Champ, he was his harmonica player. He was an older guy, with a beard, old guy. And he said, "Oh, you bought your harp?" Which I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm gonna show you how to play this harp." And he showed me how to play the harmonica. This older man named Champ that played with Muddy Waters. And I was doing just the opposite of what he taught me. Then he said, "No, stop doing that and do this." Okay. And so I put the harmonica up to my mouth and I started blowing in it. And he said, "No, you don't blow into the harp. Most of the notes you suck out like you sucking a straw, like you drinking a drink through a straw."
That's right. Get a lesson here now.
See, that's the key.
Oh, boy.
A lot of people think you blow into the harp. No, you sucking the notes out. So I started doing that, and it sounded so good. I couldn't believe it. So I just say, and then he said, "Can you play a song?" I said, "Yeah." So he said, I said, "I can play Amazing Grace." "Oh, really?" He said, I said, "Sure." I said, "Sure." So most of that was sucking the notes out. There is some breathing into it, and you know when you a instrument player like a sax player, it's sort of like you use the same techniques that you would play a clarinet or that you would play a saxophone, but those instruments you blow into and it has a reed. This instrument you suck the notes out, but it's a reed in there just like that too. A lot of people don't know the
You
technique.
think you're blowing out, but you actually blowing in.
Yes, you sucking in.
You're sucking in, yes.
Right, and so you know there's a secret to every musical instrument. Once you unlock the secret and practice on it, you can become proficient in that instrument. A lot of people just don't know. They don't know where to start, and that's why people give you lessons, but they go slow so they make a whole lot of money. You know.
Absolutely.
With Cecil, Homeboy, Holden, and Valerie McConnell, and the music is great. I see that you have your album there, and tell us about it.
Well, this album I came up with is called Soul Just Ain't Enough, and I said I want to put a variety of songs on here. Every song is different, but my favorite song on here is Systematic, because it's like when love comes into your heart, into your mind, and into your soul, it gets into your system, and it becomes systematic. It becomes automatic, and that's how I wrote the song. Systematic, automatic. So I'm talking about love. If love is in your system, it's going to be systematic and it's going to be automatic. That's what true love is. True love gets in your system and it stays there.
Absolutely.
And that's what Systematic is all about. Systematic. Welcome back, folks. My name is Cecil, Homeboy, Holden, and I want to give you some history of soul music, okay? I was gifted, I was black, and I heard music on the radio. And I got so excited about hearing that music that I would take a little transistor radio and go to bed and supposed to be sleeping. I've had the transistor radio up under my pillow listening to the music and the pioneers and the blues. Okay. One of the first songs that I heard Sam Cooke singing all of his songs, What a Wonderful World, This Would Be. And then I heard blues. I heard Muddy Waters singing the blues, you know, I'm a Man, and all those different songs as I was listening to black radio. Something hit me, a light bulb, and said, hey, you know what, that sounds good. Maybe you can do that. So I started to sing every song that came on the radio. And my parents said, oh, you got some talent. So they started putting me in talent shows. And I would mock or imitate a lot of the singers that were on the radio at that time. It was Curtis Mayfield. When I heard Curtis Mayfield sing Gypsy Woman, it seemed like music changed. It's like it would change from doo-wop to soul. Curtis Mayfield was one of the innovators. One of the first songs that he wrote was Gypsy Woman, and it was about a woman of beauty, and it was about how music expressed love. Soul music was created way back when. It was created from gospel and blues, you know. And when I look at the two cities that were most important, you're talking about Detroit, Motown, and you're talking about Chicago. Okay. Chicago had a bunch of hits too, and so did was Curtis Mayfield. When I heard Curtis Mayfield sing Gypsy Woman, it seemed like music changed. It's like it would change from doo-wop to soul. Curtis Mayfield was one of the innovators. One of the first songs that he wrote was Gypsy Woman, and it was about a woman, but it was about the soul of a woman. It was about her beauty, and it was about how music expressed love, you know, between the man and the woman. And all the love belongs to a woman with soul.
Hard Fighting Soldier, take one.
And a modern soul touch on it. And it's like, when I did that, it's like God anointed the song. And so when I put the song out there, it just came back to me as spirit. And everybody that hears it, it came back to them as spirit, you know. And there's spirit in the song. And the same thing with New Jack Steppin'. I know there's a lot of stepping songs out there.
Your hits today. We love Hard Fighting Soldier, New Jack Stepping.
Right.
And there's many on the chart. So LasVegasHotRadio.com. We're going to be listening to some of the music today.
Yes.
And tell me the top 3 music performances that you had that you would say that stood out.
Well, I would say number 1, like you mentioned, Hard Fighting Soldier.
Soldier,
and that was Cecil Homeboy Holden. Cecil, tell me, why do they call you Homeboy?
You know what? I was concerned that you'd ask me that, but I'm going to tell you the story.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I was a street light kid. In other words, when the street lights came on, I had to come home. You know, it's getting dark. So we was playing baseball one time, and the game went to overtime, and it got dark. So my grandfather came out, and my uncle came out, and they said, "Cecil, where you at?" And I said, "I'm over there." They said, "What? Get on, boy. Get on, boy. You know you're supposed to be home before the street lights come on." And all the kids started calling me Homeboy after that.
And they kid you about that. That's
They
great.
kidded me about it, but then they started calling me Homeboy. So then when I got older, I made my company called Homeboy Music, and I've been with ASCAP since 1973. Oh, let's do this right now. Come on. Hi, I'm Cecil Homeboy Holden. Hope you're listening to my music. Hard Fighting Soldier, Systematic, and of course, New Jack Steppin'.